as simple as that I tell people all the time. When you leave the house in the morning, a lot of people get overwhelmed thinking, oh, I don't know what my life purpose is, or what I should do, or what my passion is. So I say, all right, how about this? Your purpose when you leave the house is to make people smile. Just focus on them. If you're in the elevator, if you're crossing the street, make eye contact. Don't be staring at your phone all day. Smile, engage people. And it's amazing how much happier that makes you. When you give someone a compliment and they smile, it makes you feel better, Like, we all want to think we're philanthropic and doing things for the world and donating to charity because we're Gandhi, but that's not really true. We do it because it makes us feel good. And so if I could go back, I would say, look, dude, stop being so obsessed with yourself and what's the matter with you and how can you be stronger and bigger and make more money. Focus on other people.
It makes me wanna breathe. I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul. I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul.
The Vision Board Podcast, hosted by Johnny Stofko and Tristan Cannell.
Episode 26 of the Vision Board Podcast. I'm Tristan Cannell. Alongside me, I've got Johnny Stofko.
What's up, everyone? How's everyone doing? Let's bring it for this episode of the Vision Board Podcast.
Awesome. We've got Jason Ferruggia coming on today. We take a step looking at a fitness expert in America. He's been featured in pretty much every single publication. The man is highly respected in the industry and across different worlds. Obviously, he's really breaking into the entrepreneurial side of his personality now too, isn't he, Johnny?
Yeah, Jay is a true pioneer of what he does. He's been doing online coaching, strength and conditioning expert. He has his Renegade Fitness, very highly renowned, well-reputed gentleman in the fitness industry.
Definitely. Just a big shout out first to all the fans out there, guys. Thank you for supporting, leaving your reviews. It is much appreciated. If you haven't done so far, not a problem. Just jump on, quickly subscribe, and just leave us a quick 5-star review.
Yeah, guys, let's take it to the next level, too. Be sure to like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram and Twitter. Also, when we're posting things, feel free to like and share to your friends. It's all about spreading the words of positivity and inspiration, and let's increase our community.
Yeah, I think so as well. Guys, just a big shout out to our major sponsor, Populis.
Yeah, Populis is a boutique international management consulting company. What they do is specialize in helping businesses transform and assist them in taking the next step in growth.
Yeah, they do really emphasize that importance on leadership. They've got a huge track record on creating business culture, happiness programs, and they've got also got a massive track record on delivering substantial revenue growth for their clients.
Yeah, keeping people happy is key in any successful business. Populis succeeds in this on every stage. Check Populis out at their website at www.populis.com.au. That's populis.com.au.
Also, check out The Leadership Show. That's led by their CEO, Rose Singh, and that's hosted on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Okay, our special guest today is Jason Ferruggia. Jason's one of the most respected people in the fitness industry. He's the founder and CEO of Renegade Strength Club. He hosts his own Jay Ferruggia Show, while his work has been seen in the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger, T-Nation, Livestrong, Men's Fitness, Men's Health, ESPN, Muscle and Fitness, and CBS. Wow, we're lucky to have him on today. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me.
No, most definitely. Obviously, just want to touch a little bit on, obviously you grew up in small town New Jersey. What I really want to know is, how did you fall in love with fitness and health?
Just because I was super weak and skinny and insecure and depressed, and I wasn't really battling with any kind of addiction issues at the time. That came later in life. But just as a kid, I grew up a huge pro wrestling fan in the 80s, watching Schwarzenegger and Stallone on the big screen. And I was like, man, I want to be jacked like those guys. And, I was, like I said, just super skinny and pathetically weak. And I was never the best athlete. If I could go back and train, which I didn't at the time, I wish I could. I'd probably be much better. But I started training mainly just to look like pro wrestlers and whatnot. And then I realized, a little too late, that it could have helped me become a better athlete. But my cousin was dating a dude who was a pro wrestler at the time. I was 12 years old and not even 100 pounds, and this dude was 240. He was like 6'4", 240, ripped out of his mind. He wasn't in WWE, but he was in like a smaller promotion at the time, and he kind of became my idol, the guy that really got me into training at the beginning. Of course, he was giving me stuff he was doing. It was like 6-day-a-week body part splits for 2 hours. I didn't really get anywhere, but that's what got me started.
Awesome. And it's such a, obviously it's a pretty cutthroat and competitive industry. What made you stand out from the rest?
Well, I started training people in 1994 while I was still going to school. And long before CrossFit or any of the kind of hardcore warehouse gyms or anything like that were around, and before the internet really, I was doing stuff like that. I was doing strongman training. We had guys flipping tires and using rings. The first person actually I heard about using rings for strength training was Larry Scott. Yeah, he was the first Mr. Olympia. So I had an old, crazy-looking pair of rings that I don't even know how I found them somewhere. We were doing that stuff long before everyone and their mother in CrossFit was doing rings. So it was original and innovative at the time. And just I always wrote, when I started writing online in 2000, 2001, I always wrote like I spoke. And it was one of the only things I was decent at in school was writing. So I was able to kind of take my ideas and what we were doing. We got a ton of great results with all of our athletes, and the word of mouth blew up the business to where after school, school got out at 2:45. The kids would get there at 3-ish, and from 3 to 7, I would sometimes work with 55 kids or so. Football players, basketball players, baseball, wrestlers. And so business was jamming, so I wanted to, reach a larger audience. And like I said, I guess my ability to speak a certain way and communicate resonated with a lot of people. And again, it was original at the time. So I was kind of an early adopter, getting on, being one of the original online fitness guys, I guess you could say.
Yeah, Jay, I'm always interested. You have many different titles, background fitness. You've been a coach, host of your podcast, entrepreneur. In regards to your own personal evolution, how important has it been the platform of this, tech boost in podcasting in regards to sharing knowledge, you having your guests on, and then just getting basically to feed off each other with ideas?
So exactly how do you mean that? Like, are you talking about the podcast specifically?
I guess in reference for somebody who may be struggling with, we all go through these phases of, I guess I went through them in my early 20s of not asking for help. And then once you get to a certain phase in your life, you realize the benefits of connecting, realizing you need to learn more, and then basically growing from other people.
Yeah, well, I've been lucky enough. I mean, I always kind of knew, I don't know how, but I knew that, surrounding yourself with the right people was key. And throughout my career, I've been super close friends with a lot of the most influential people in the industry. Dave Tate, Jim Wendler, Joe DeFranco, Jim Smitty from the Diesel crew, Alan Cosgrove, Craig Valentine. And so I was always able, Zach Evanesh, Chad Waterbury, I was always able to kind of reach out and connect to other guys that I wanted to learn from, and then we just became friends. And again, it wasn't any kind of manipulative thing where I was like, I want something from these guys. I mean, most of those guys, we just hang out nowadays. We hardly even talk about business a lot of times. We might just talk about sports and, joke around like we're kids. But to your point, I always knew you had to learn from guys that were smarter than you in places where you wanted to be. And then with the podcast, it enables me to now reach out to other guys so I wouldn't be able to connect with, guys that even outside the industry, like Chris Gillibo or someone like that who I really admire. I'm able to have them on. And it just helps you, again, develop that kind of relationship with those people. And, I always believe in asking for help and learning from people smarter than you. Now, as far as a direct impact on the business, I don't know if you're asking that or not, but the podcast hasn't had a huge impact on my business. There are other things that I think are more important, more effective for me. That said, I probably haven't put enough effort into it the way some people do. It hasn't been my main focus.
I think the way I look at the podcasting too is it's almost a form of expression from what we get to do, asking the questions. You mentioned earlier when we just started about you felt like one of your strengths when you were younger was writing. We all, being in the fitness industry, sporting background, we all have our role models when we were kids as athletes. Who were some of yours on the opposite side of that spectrum? Some maybe writers or some poets, some guys that you looked up to in regards to their writing style?
Henry Rollins.
Okay.
Yeah, I've always just been a fan of Henry Rollins, his writing, and I've read his books, his spoken word stuff, his music.
Yeah, very expressive.
That would be one of the first people that comes to mind. And then, really, as it pertains to fitness, it would be John McCallum, who wrote The Keys to Progress. I would say he was the best writer in the history of the Iron Game. He had a column in Iron Man magazine, I guess, in the, I don't know if it was the 60s or 70s, I should know that, but they put it all together into a book, and that's really my favorite, probably, training book ever. And just his writing style was so unique, and that influenced me a lot.
Were there any type of guys like that, somebody who really doesn't know you that well, that would be kind of shocked? Like, do you read Locke, or like, are you a Shakespeare guy, a Robert Frost guy? Are you into poetry, anything like that, or is it all?
No, not really.
All right.
I wish I could say yes. It sounds smarter than I am, but no.
Jay, I've been following you for a while, and I love all your motivational emails and things like that. One thing that does stand out is you do talk a lot about success, especially the success you've had early on in the 2000s. But you always talk about, you felt about there was something missing. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so a lot of times people come to me and they see, maybe the progress I've made with training myself or my clients, or now they'll see the success financially with the business, and they'll say, oh, can you give me a plan for that? Can you give me a fitness plan? Can you give me a business plan? And sure, I can hand it to you, but until you fix really what's going on in your head and what's in your heart, it doesn't matter. It's never going to happen. If it was that easy, anyone could do it. We would all look like Arnold. We would all make as much money as Mark Cuban. You really need to get introspective and ask yourself the hard questions and figure out what's really important to you in life and what your definition of success is. Because at first I thought it was just being big and strong, and then I got up to 220 plus pounds, and I still wasn't happy. And then I thought it was just making money, and I made several $100,000s a year, and I still wasn't happy. So I had to really say, well, what is going on here? What's really going to make me happy? And it's way less than most people think. It's not money. It's not looking a certain way. Those things help. Those things, are definitely nice luxuries. I mean, I want to be in shape. I want to look a certain way. I want to make a certain amount of money. But if everything else is off, it's not going to work. So that's why I'm a big believer in kind of doing an 80-20 evaluation of your life and figuring out what's a waste of time, what's useless, and what really makes you happy. I mean, maybe it's just taking your dog for a walk and having the money to eat out twice a week and eat organic food and train on your own schedule. I mean, everyone thinks, that a life like an Entourage or something is going to make people happy, but it's not necessarily true. So I've had a lot of ups and downs, and look, I don't have it all figured out. I still struggle with that stuff every day, which is why I have to meditate and journal and just stick to daily habits and rituals and surround myself with the right people that are living the way I want to, because I could easily slip. And to be honest with you, I do slip from time to time. I'm sure in 2016 I'll slip into, a little bit of a downward spiral at some point. Not as often as I used to, but I don't think I'll make it throughout the year without that happening again. But this time it'll only be 3-4 days versus 3-4 months, and then I'll catch myself, and some of my friends will, catch me. And that's the importance of having those people around to call you out on that.
Awesome. Jay, you just touched on happiness. What are some of the things that make you happy, man?
Being able to make my own schedule and being able to surf and train when I want. Just hanging out at the beach. We have a dog now, which really makes me happy, just being able to take him out. It's really simple stuff. It's not all the things I thought. It's not traveling the world and staying in expensive hotels and expensive material things. Like, that doesn't really make me happy. It's just and having the time to spend with really amazing people. I'm at a point now where years ago, they say the average person has less than one true friend, and that was definitely me throughout my 20s and early 30s. I knew a lot of people, I trained a lot of people, I was surrounded by people, but I didn't really have any close personal connections because I was so internally focused on me, how could I fix me, how could I make things better for myself. And then once I kind of shifted that to an external focus, I was just able to attract the right kind of people in my life. So now I have 5 quote-unquote best friends that are just amazing people. If I just had one of them, it would be incredible. But I have 5 of them, and to be able to spend time with those guys is what really makes me happy. And the only other thing I would add to that is having the money to go to probably 50 concerts a year, because I'm a huge fan of music. So,
Jay, another thing, obviously, you talked about the success you've had now, and obviously people looking up to you. Just from following you, I know that during the last period of time, over the last 10, 15 years, You lost your six-figure business a couple of times. Is that right? Can you tell the audience just a little bit about that experience and how you got it all back?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I built up the business. Like I said, 94, things blew up pretty quick. And by the time I was 21, I had a six-figure training business while I was still in school. But I didn't really know anything about saving money. And, I was the worst at saving money, honestly. And so it was just bad spending habits. If people, at that time, my other friends who were 21, they were making maybe a fifth of what I was making. So if we wanted to go out and party in New York, if we wanted to get the VIP room and get bottles of vodka or go to Nobu to eat, it was always on me. If we wanted to go to Vegas for the weekend, I would say, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll pay. If you guys can't afford it, let's just go." And my life did become almost like a watered down version of Entourage for a little while, where I just had other people around me and I was spending money left and right. And then it really came to a head when I lived in New York City for a year, and I was going out all the time, just constantly out to dinner, out to bars, partying. And it just ended up that even after, at that point, I think it was about 10 or so years that I'd been making six figures, the bank account was just empty, and I was struggling. So I had to call my mom up, and I was, basically crying my eyes out and telling her what happened, because I kept it to myself. I don't share too many things like that. I finally just broke down. I told her what had happened, and I had to beg her to move into her spare bedroom. And I spent 6 months there, basically just eating potatoes and bagels and whatever I could afford to eat, and just working my ass off to get back on top. That was when I started building the online business, and that went really well, pretty fast. Same thing, I had a pretty fast growth there, and things were great. And then I just fell into bad habits again. I really didn't, at that time, I wasn't surrounded with the people I am now, and I had no one telling me, look, you got to be smarter, you got to save your money, you can't spend it all. But for some reason, I thought that's what happiness was, and I was just trying to, again, because like we touched on before, I wasn't really happy at the time, so I thought that traveling and doing all that stuff and partying and just buying 10 pairs of $200 Air Jordans and all that kind of stuff would make me happy. And again, I blew it all, which is crazy that it happened twice. But again, I was completely wiped out of money. And, that was a rough time. But luckily, that time it didn't take me as much. I learned a little bit. Didn't take me as much effort and as much time to kind of get back on track. I had to sacrifice for another few months and cut out all expenses, but we were able to get it back. And luckily, I had my wife around that time to help, so it was a lot easier.
Excellent. Jay, we always say, people looking back in hindsight, man, I wish I knew then what I know now. Is there anything, something, your current version of yourself, advice would give maybe a 25-year-old version of yourself?
Yeah, so many things. I love that question. I'd probably say really just not focusing on myself so much, kind of shifting that internal focus to external and thinking about how I could help other people and, how I could make them. And something as simple as that I tell people all the time, when you leave the house in the morning, a lot of people get overwhelmed thinking, I don't know what my life purpose is or what I should do or what my passion is. So I say, all right, how about this? Your purpose when you leave the house is to make people smile. Just focus on them. If you're in the elevator, if you're crossing the street, make eye contact. Don't be staring at your phone all day. Smile, engage people. And it's amazing how much happier that makes you. When you give someone a compliment and they smile, it makes you feel better, Like we all want to think we're philanthropic and doing things for the world and donating to charity because we're Gandhi, but that's not really true. We do it because it makes us feel good. And so if I could go back, I would say, look, dude, stop being so obsessed with yourself and what's the matter with you and how can you be stronger and bigger and make more money. Focus on other people. Because even though it sounds kind of like, whatever, like granola or whatever, it does really make a huge difference and it does change your life.
Okay. Jay, you just touched on helping people. You're doing work with guys on weekend retreats and things like that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's a little bit beyond fitness, so I use alliteration to remember it. So it's fitness, focus, finances, family, fun. And so, basically, obviously the fitness stuff we cover during those weekends, but it's more about mindset and personal development and some of the stuff we touched upon, like eliminating all the things that are distractions or that are useless, and just focusing on what's really important. And it's funny, you see the evolution, even over the course of a weekend, but especially with the guys who are on our mentorship program over the course of several months, where they come in and they think they want to work on 10 things, and then a few months later they only want to work on 4 things, and then a few months later we meet up again and they only want to work on 1 thing. And that's really important, is just to narrow the focus down, eliminate all the clutter and what's not really important. And then you start to see the guys really improving and getting happy. And then they start getting in better shape. Their communication skills improve. Their charisma improves. Their confidence improves. Their relationships with friends or their wives or family members improve. And it's funny, I say finances in one of the Ferruggia 5, but most of the guys aren't that. They come in thinking, I need to make more money. And so I say, okay, let's work on this other stuff first. And then a few months down the road, they say, I'm kind of making as much money as I need. It's other stuff that's making me happy. Now, that said, some of the guys have increased their income significantly because they were in a better place and they were ready for some of the business tips and things that I could offer them. But it's been really rewarding. It's been really cool just to see people improve their lives all around, not just fitness. I mean, for 20 years or so, the only success stories I heard were, I lost 18 pounds of fat, I gained 20 pounds of muscle, I doubled my chin-ups, I got a scholarship, and that's awesome. I love that. But to see guys say, my relationship with my wife is 10 times better, or now I'm able to go out and talk to girls, I have way more confidence, that kind of stuff's really cool to see.
Excellent. Jay, you did a podcast, I think the heartbeat of it was, creating a vision, and first, we talk about manifesting, what we want, goal setting, etc. Where you are in your career, everything that you've achieved up until this day, what are you visualizing for your future? Do you make new goals every so often? Is there something that you're always striving for? Is there something in the near future you're shooting for?
Yes. I didn't put any effort into this, but over the last year and a half, I've been called in for 5 different TV show auditions, and I got pretty far on most of them, and I thought it was pretty exciting. I mean, that would be, I feel like I've done so many things and I don't like to go back, so going forward, that's something I haven't done, and I would be able to reach more people. So that's really my thing now. This year I'm focused on that, and if it doesn't happen, I'm going to manifest it myself by creating my own show online or something like that. Yeah. So to that end, I'll be taking more improv classes and things like that would help me in that kind of venture.
Yeah, that's it just reminds me, I'm a big fan of, he passed away years ago, but Jim Rohn has that quote. He talks about the difference between like a formal education, how it's important, it makes you a living, but our self-education, like how we upskill, will make you a fortune. So really important. It's kind of one of those common denominators when you have guys or girls who are looking to better themselves. It's always like something that we have to do, personal development, which is really important.
Yep.
You just talked about you do a bit of stand-up too, don't you?
I did, but not much. Yeah. That's something I want to get back into now as well. The thing with that is it requires a lot more homework than doing improv or acting classes or something. So there's a few things I need to get off my plate first, and then I want to get back into that as well.
That would have been huge in terms of like breaking out of a bit of a comfort zone, to be in front of an audience.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That would have been huge. Jay, let's just talk a little bit about training. Like now I know that you're over 40. Just seeing the stuff you do online now, it's a little bit away from what you first kind of was there. Obviously, you went from a bit of a meathead. Now you're obviously looking more towards your longevity, and you're introducing a lot more body weight stuff. Can you just tell the listeners just a little bit how your training's evolved over the years? Yeah,
I really haven't touched a barbell. Aside from maybe doing something with a landmine, or occasionally if someone's in from out of town, if they, a buddy of mine that I don't train with often, if they want to do something, but it'll be modified. But I really haven't done anything with a barbell consistently in at least 5 years. And I just feel way better. So I do a ton of body weight stuff, dumbbells, kettlebells, stuff like that. At this point, it's more just I want to feel good all the time. Obviously, there's still the meathead aspect. I like lifting heavyweight, but for me, heavyweight now might be, pressing 100-pound dumbbells, which is probably as heavy as I'm going to go anymore. But yeah, it's just about getting a pump, feeling good, being able to move freely without pain. Because growing up, I was I was injured all the time. I was really injury prone. I was like Grant Hill or somebody. Every time I turned around, I was getting injured, playing sports, playing on a playground. I was breaking something left and right. I was super frail. And then that just continued. I got a bad injury wrestling one time, another bad injury skiing. And then those kind of just went into the gym when I was super into a heavy powerlifting training phase for probably 3 or 4 years. I would always just go way too heavy. I was angry at the time too. I wasn't happy like we discussed. So I would kind of unleash that anger on my squats and deadlifts and bench presses, hit the smelling salts, crank up Slayer, Public Enemy, and just, I'm not blaming the lifts themselves, but I got injured quite a few times. And honestly, looking back, I do remember that when I got off of some of that stuff, I felt way better. I moved better. I ran better. I jumped better. And this is even going back when I was 30, so 11 years ago. I would start doing phases where I would take the barbell out for 90 days, and everything felt better. And I had a lot of guys with the same experience. So those lifts are great. Like power lifts, Olympic lifts are great if you're built for them. If you take the necessary time to develop the mobility and the range of motion and can do them perfectly, which most people never will do. That's the honest truth. Most people aren't going to come in and say, I'm going to take 4 months to get my mobility where it needs to be and just squat with a PVC pipe. So I just think it's easier, and you're better off just recommending people not even do those. And if I do them or recommend them now, they're done in a safer manner. So you might use a reverse band, you might use chains, and it would be the second, third, or fourth exercise. So you're a little bit more pre-fatigued, can't use as much weight. Maybe you'll do a 3-second eccentric with a pause at the bottom. Things like that, just to make it safer. Because when you're beat up all the time, you're not going to perform optimally, you're not going to recover optimally, so you're not going to gain size and strength as fast, and you just feel like shit. So. Yeah. And especially as you get older, when you get over 35, especially over 40, it becomes more important.
Man, how good was Grant Hill? If he could have stayed healthy,
even in Australia, Grant Hill.
He had I think he was one of those guys that had a 3-4 year window that was just amazing.
You know what? Even when he was injured, I had NBA Live.
Yeah,
I always had to get him.
You guys don't know about basketball here. Anyway, let me piggyback off that. Jay, are you doing any type of in terms of recovering, healing, even just detaching, the mind from the body naturally, any type of therapeutic work on the body, such as maybe, massage, acupuncture, isolation tanks, meditation, anything like that?
All of it. So, today I have, every Tuesday I have 2 hours in the at the Float Lab, which is a sensory deprivation tank.
Venice Beach, right?
Yes, sir.
Man, I float. So sorry to cut you off because I want to hear this, but it's crazy. So I floated a place in Bondi, and nobody knows. So it's like a ghost town here in Sydney, and I go every week. But if you compare what the scene is in LA, you have to get on a waiting list. Am I right on that?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how's that going for you?
It's awesome. I love that. That's one of my favorite things. So I have a recurring appointment there every week, and then some weeks if I need to and I can get in, I'll get in a second session there. And then today I have a 2-hour massage that I get every week. And again, if something's wrong, I'll get in for a second one there too as well. Right now I'm not going to West Hollywood for improv. I'm going to start back up again next month. But when I go up there, I'll do the cryotherapy. I forget the name of the place. It's the place that Joe Rogan and all those guys go to. So I'll go there, and then if I need to, I also have Dr. Mark Chang is a few blocks away. He's a good friend of mine, so I'll go over there for some soft tissue, for some manipulations, some adjustments. He does acupuncture, all that stuff. So I have him. I don't go routinely to him, but I have him, like I said, I have him on speed dial in case anything goes wrong. So it's basically the 2 treatments each week, and then whatever I need or I feel I could fit the time, I could fit in.
Yeah, have you heard of, I've been asking people lately, it's like when I start learning about something, I kind of dive into it. Have you heard of this treatment? It's called Combo. It's with the frog from the Amazon. Have you heard? It's a purge and a cleanse. I was reading that some MMA fighters do it, and they take this frog, and there's a toxin on the skin of the frog, so they don't kill it. And then what they do is they administer the toxin on the surface of the skin, and you go through, I think, like a 4 to 5, 6 hour purge and a cleanse. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be really intense. Ask Dr. Mark Chang about it. It's in that realm. I know a lot of healers, a lot of naturopaths. Kind of, it's starting to pick up a little steam, which may be a bad thing actually.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's called KAMBL. I've been asking people lately, and nobody's heard of it, so I may be the crazy one.
Jay, let's just talk a little bit nutrition, man. What's changed? Like, we just obviously spoke about your training and how that's evolved over time. What's the main differences with your nutrition over the last 10 years?
Years ago, it was all about just eat as much as you can, get as many calories as you can. That's all that matters for recovery and performance. And then I'd say 8 years ago, my wife and I became vegetarians for about 3 years. And I learned a lot of things during that time. And I noticed that at first my recovery was way better, but it was because of the food quality. So I cut out a bunch of shit, and then I realized during that time, it was more about the quality, the nutrients, not necessarily just tons of calories all day. And my digestive system felt better, my joints felt better. So when I added meat and animal products back in, I kind of took what I learned during the time as a vegetarian and combined that. So now I feel that my ideal diet for me and for a lot of people I work with is kind of what Tony Gonzalez has adopted, or as far as I know, guys like CM Punk, where they went the vegetarian route and didn't feel as great after a while, and they brought back in a small amount of animal products, and they're kind of able to maximize their health and performance with that. So that's basically how I eat now and how I recommend most people eating. So, for breakfast, I'll usually have a shake just for convenience. So I'll get a green juice across the street, like a fresh pressed juice, throw it in the blender with some protein powder, mixed berries, cherries, some extra spinach, and a tablespoon of nut butter. And then lunch will be just some lean protein and vegetables. And if I'm going to train, I would have carbs with that. So I'd have like a sweet potato. Post-workout, I would have another meal, and then dinner's my largest meal of the day, and I recommend that for most people for no other magical reason other than that it's just awesome from a social perspective and for convenience and for your lifestyle. I don't have a ton of time or desire to eat an inordinate amount of food during the day, and if I do, then I'm kind of bloated and sluggish and tired. No matter what I eat, that's kind of the deal. So, and I like to just save it up at night, because I love my wife's an amazing cook. So there's no way I'm going to limit myself to small portions when she brings out, all that delicious stuff. So I'm going to crank most of my calories during that time, or we're going to go out to eat to an awesome restaurant here with friends. So it's pretty simple. Just, 2 or 3 small meals during the day, and then my largest meal at night. And the majority of starchy carbs will be at night unless it's a training day.
Yeah, are you one of these guys or one of these people that count? Do you count in meal prep? Do you count calories and set your meals up, or is that like...
No, I really can't bring myself to do that. It seems too nuts to me.
I say the same thing. I think it's a form of some type of OCD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say that at the beginning, if you have no idea, and I talk to educated guys, like guys who are friends of mine who are successful, who really don't know what a protein and a carb is.
Yeah.
At the beginning, you kind of have to get somewhere. I think for some people. But after a while, I've been eating like this forever now, so you kind of are able to just guesstimate and eyeball it. And then if I go a couple days, I eat too much, I simply just don't eat as much the next couple days. If it's a Super Bowl weekend and we're eating a ton of food, I know that Monday and Tuesday I'm going to eat half of what I normally eat. And you could easily keep yourself in check. If you start seeing your abs disappear a little bit, you got to cut it back. If shirts start getting too big, you got to add a few more carbs. It becomes simple after you've done it for a while. At the beginning, track it a little more so you at least know, but then I don't think it has to be an OCD thing for the rest of your life.
Jay, you've done some work with Arnold Schwarzenegger too, haven't you?
Yeah, his office is actually a block away from mine, so I've been invited to some cool movie premiere parties of his, and I've been over his office and taken pictures with the Conan swords in there, and been able to write a bunch of articles for his site, and hopefully in the future there's some more, possibly getting involved more with his charity and whatever else. We don't know yet.
Cool. Have you got any cool Arnie stories or anything, Jay?
I thought the coolest thing was we hadn't seen him probably for 7 to 9 months, and we were at a party at I believe it was a party at the Grove at this really cool place. I can't remember what the movie was for, and Stallone was there, and a bunch of people were there. And he comes up to Jen and I, my wife, at the bar, and he says something about a drink that he recommended her to try the last time we were together, like 7 to 9 months earlier, and had some other like inside joke with her. And it was amazing. I said, wow, that's why he's so successful. And before he came over, I was just watching him navigate and work the room. And there was like a fitness segment of people, people from the magazines and myself and a few other guys that he would kind of do one routine with. And there was the Hollywood set, and then there was the political set. And he would just navigate the whole room. And it was funny because Daniel, his assistant, who I'm friends with, would stand right by him and he would go up to somebody, and sometimes he couldn't remember, or maybe he just didn't know who the person was, and Daniel would say, oh, this is so-and-so from whatever show on NBC, you tweeted him the other day, and he would whisper it in his ear, and Arnold would go up to him, and you would think he knew the guy for 20 years, just able to develop an instant rapport with the guy, and then move on to the next guy and do the same thing, and then remember something that he told my wife. Like, how would he possibly remember that, like 7 months earlier, and then have some other little joke with her? And I was like, man, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing, and that's why he's as successful as he is.
Yeah, we were chatting with Adam a couple weeks ago, Bornstein, and he was telling us a story that, and it's like you said, certain people just have that awareness, that drive, that focus. But I guess Schwarzenegger, when he was younger and still competing, and I tried Googling this because I couldn't find this, and he said that he would wear jeans and cut his jeans off from the knee down to make them shorts.
Yeah.
Because he knew that his calves was something he needed to work on, so he could stare at them the whole time.
Yep, exactly.
Talk about self-motivation. Like,
yeah.
That's I think a lot of us we kind of shy away from working on ourselves, but the ones who become separate themselves are always the one who do the most work.
Yeah.
Jay, you're also a massive Giants and Yankees fan. How are you finding being in LA? Like, you must be missing it.
Not really. I love the beach and the weather here too much, but it's funny because LA's super transient, and a lot of people around here and in our building are from New York, so you run into a lot of New York fans. I definitely miss going to the games, that for sure, because we used to go to a handful of Yankees games every year, and definitely when playoffs roll around, to me, there's nothing better than being at Yankee Stadium during the World Series or the playoffs. That's awesome. So I miss that. I miss going to Giants games. I'm excited that we're going to have football here, so the Giants will come around once in a while. And we go to at least one of the Angels games when the Yankees are out here each year. So
yeah, you know what I miss? Do you ever make it to Catalina?
I've been there once and loved it.
Oh my God, yeah! Like you could, the boat ride is like an hour, and then they have these. Catalina, if you're listening, it's an island off the coast of Southern California, and
you feel like you're in Greece.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Do you know that? I guess John Wrigley. There's an old casino on the island, and then in the late 1900s, John Wrigley owned it, and the Cubs would do their spring training there. So pretty, Southern California, I don't care where you grow up or you're from and you live there, it's going to be pretty tough to miss your original home once you're living there.
Yeah.
And it's tough to explain that unless you live it, but yeah, I totally agree too.
Yeah.
Jay, can you give us an insight into some of the style of training that you do with the Renegade Strength Club?
It's similar to what I was explaining before. So it's basically I make it as safe as possible. A lot of focus on body weight, dumbbells, kettlebells, throw some conditioning stuff in there. 3 to 4 days a week. Generally an upper-lower split I prefer for most people. Beginners could get away with full body easily, but I just like to keep it simple and not have too many options or too much confusion. And the guys tend to be a little bit older, in their 30s and above in there. So at that point, if they're doing some extra conditioning, I don't want them smashing their knees, hips, lower back 3 days a week. So usually stick with an upper-lower split. And that's pretty much the gist of it.
Cool. Do you prefer kind of working with just your regular people in terms? I know you've trained a lot of athletes over the years as well. What's kind of been the difference between training an athlete? Do you enjoy that more, or kind of more just with the general public? You know what I mean?
Well, some of the best years of my life were when I was in the gym with athletes all day long, and we would have different groups come in. I mean, there was 1 hour where it was all the minor league baseball guys and the football guys, and I love that. Those are some of my most fun and treasured memories being around those guys and just the competition and the shit talking and be able to influence them in some way beyond the gym was really cool. That said, more goes into that. You know, you have to write their strength training, their plyos, their running, plan for in and out of season. There's a lot more work that goes into that versus training a guy who's 35 and just wants to be in shape. So right now I'm happy not training athletes anymore. I'm happy just working with the average guy. And plus I could relate to them better. You know, I am that guy now. When I was 28, I wasn't really that guy. I still thought I was the same age as the athletes. And some of the pro guys, I was the same age that I was training. But now it's easier for me because it's what I do. It's I can relate better, and it's just less work and preparation. So I prefer it.
Jay, you've been in the fitness game for a while. You're a pioneer, a veteran. Is there anything, so from your experience from when you first got in to where you are currently right now in the industry as a whole, is there anything that you see what's happening or maybe visualize where it's going that you would fix, critique, or change a little bit in the industry?
Not that I could really think of. I find that if I pay too much attention to what's going on, I'll get suckered just like anybody else, and then I'll be wasting a lot of time, and I'll be thinking, which everybody falls into. So, and I'm no different. I'll say, you know what, he's doing, maybe Joe's doing that. Maybe I should try that. Maybe I should be doing this, or maybe I should adjust this with my business. So I try to kind of keep blinders on and not know exactly what's going on at all times. That said, I don't want to be left out in the dark, so I have people on my team that kind of keep me updated, and I certainly check things here and there, but I limit the sources I look at. I don't really know, in general, if there's something that I would change. I don't think, now it's popular for everyone and their mother to do Olympic lifts, just walking in off the street. I don't think that's the smartest idea. But in general, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Cool. Jay, just a personality question I like to ask all my guests. Now, John Romanello, right?
Yes.
I asked him the same question and he gave me 20 answers.
Yeah, we only need 5.
So, the question is, excluding your family and friends, who are the 5 people you would invite to a dinner party that you would host?
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive. And can be real or non-real, because I got half of the Marvel characters out of John.
So I would say Bruce Lee, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Bob Marley, either Chuck D or Eddie Vedder. Probably Eddie Vedder.
Awesome. Wow. You knew right off the bat. That's awesome.
And Jay,
if you gave me another 10 minutes, I could probably name another 10 names. But I would definitely like to talk to those guys. Probably one athlete. I don't know who the athlete would be.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one athlete, let's see. Probably Derek Jeter.
Interesting. The captain.
And who was your favorite wrestler? Because I know you're a big wrestling guy, aren't you?
Yeah, that's a tough question too. My favorite in-ring performer, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
And on the mic, I really like The Rock and Stone Cold. I mean, I guess overall, The Rock and Stone Cold would probably be tied.
Dude,
wow.
Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty were like my childhood heroes.
Oh, really?
Dude, I was like 7, and these guys are coming in on. I'm in like cold weather, depressed Ohio, and these guys are coming in on skateboards, and I'm like, oh, what is that?
I love Generation X.
Yeah, wrestling, man. My dad wouldn't even let me watch that. He's like, that stuff's fake, don't watch it. But, so Jay, also what we like doing is we use this platform for our listeners, to get feedback and advice from our guests. So is there any bit of motivation, inspiration that you could leave our listeners? Maybe they're struggling with something, maybe they're stuck in life, something that's worked for you in the past to get you to the next level.
Honestly, meditation is one of the biggest things. I know people hear that a lot, and nowadays it's almost cliche, but people give up on it because they try to meditate for 30 minutes. But I tell people just try to meditate for 2 minutes a day. And I wouldn't recommend trying to do it just in dead silence. Download one of the free meditation apps. It can be anyone. And just try to do that for 2 minutes a day. That's made the biggest difference. And my friend Mike always talks about how meditation is like showering. That once you get into it, it becomes like showering, where if you don't do it that day, other people can tell. At first, you'll be able to tell. Once you get into a habit of it, you'll notice the difference it makes. And then, as you get into it more, and it becomes a ritual, when maybe if you travel and you miss it or something, you're just too busy, other people will be able to tell. I mean, for me, it's calmed me down. It's helped me improve my focus. help improve my happiness, help me deal with stress. So meditation's huge. And then just a cheat here and give a second answer. Like I said before, I would take a night, write in a notebook, do an 80-20 evaluation of your life, write down things that you do, everything you do in the course of business and work and training and life. And then your goal is to hack off 80% of it and just focus on the 20%, the most important things when it comes to fitness, your personal development, your relationships, and your business.
Yeah, awesome advice. Actually, I use that meditation podcast app, and it's quite easy to use. So
Headspace?
yeah, no, not Headspace, just called meditation app. So.
Yeah, Jay, I like what you said about people can tell. If I go a few weeks without floating, my girlfriend's always like, "You need to get in the tank." You're like,
Oh, wow.
How true is it though? Like, I guess I never looked at it that way. It's like showering. I like that.
Jay, we really appreciate your time today, man. Where can the people reach you both online and on social media?
Yeah, my site is jasonferruggia.com, which, since it's hard to spell, renegadefitness.com will redirect you there. And I am at Jason Ferruggia on Twitter and Instagram, and I believe it's Jason Ferruggia fan page on Facebook.
Awesome, Jay. Well, we're going to be in America maybe June, July, so we'll probably have to hit you up and maybe grab a beer with you. But
That'd be great.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot for your time, Jay. We know you're a busy guy, so we appreciate it.
Thanks so much,
Thank
Jay.
you, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a great one.
We'll speak soon. Jay Ferruggia.
Yeah, this guy's evolved. I mean, I first heard of him. He did some work athletes. It's like when I was in America, on the collegiate level, there was like this, and it happens. I mean, I guess when we're in something, when we're involved in something, we think that maybe it's just me that it's the first time things are happening. But like, there's always been like strength coaches, movement coaches. But for me, he was one of those guys that was making a lot of noise in like the early 2000s. And he talks about it's interesting because the people he named for the dinner party, they don't. That's his like
Difference.
Yeah, because
That's
the
why I
music
wanted
he
to get
listens to.
Jay on, because I've followed him for about 10 years now. And the difference between Jay and a lot of the other guys, and this is across a lot of different genres, is Jay's not scared to tell people about his evolution in life. You know, he's not the same guy that he was in 2000 that he is now, but he's not afraid to share that information with people, if you get what I mean by that.
So to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think how important is
I think
that?
that's really important because he wasn't like that before. So he's changed.
So
as
you've
he's been-
watched his growth.
Yeah, so he
you
actually
stay with
explained
him
that
the whole time?
Yeah, he's actually explained that I think in early on in the thing where he said that he wasn't the most open person and he had to ring his mum.
Yeah.
So that's probably what really
The
opened
catalyst
up,
for
the
that?
catalyst to change.
I saw that, and you could find it on the internet. He moved back in with his mother, I think in his early 30s, and you're right, and then he talked about how he doesn't like taking steps back, and steps back could be career, personality, motivation, things like that. But pretty interesting too. The last few people, what he said about natural healing. I think that's the way. It's always been around for thousands of years. It's nothing new. But I think it takes for people with a higher profile, such as Ferruggia, fighters we have on who talk about how important it is. We don't need to turn to a synthetically, chemically made pill in a lab for healing. We already have that. We already have the resources, and it doesn't have to be unnatural. It doesn't have to have side effects.
Yeah.
You could get into a flow tank. You can meditate. You could get acupuncture. And it's cool to hear. It just seems right now with social media, things are picking up with that.
A great point that he picked up on was also about obviously possessions and not, when he talked about what made him happy, it's not the hotels and traveling and all that sort of stuff that we can all get caught up on. It was the little things in life, like now he's got a dog, he enjoys spending time with his wife, just doing things on his own terms. Obviously he's a serial entrepreneur. Now he picks his schedule. He knows, do you know what I mean? Like he talked about having a 2-hour massage, a 2-hour flow. These are the things that make him happy. That's why he's doing it.
Yeah, I love the happiness question. And it reminds me a lot of when we were talking with Bornstein about, finding the giants, finding the people in your life that we need to, attract ourselves with to assist in our own growth. And his circles, guys like Ballantyne, Bornstein, Cressy, Ferris, Evanesh. If you guys don't know these names, Google them. and you realize in his industry, these are all just giant type
Yeah,
dudes.
some great guys there.
And you can't get there and you can't stay there without discipline, focus, without self-improvement. It's not like, I guess I don't want to speak for the population, I tend to do that. I guess what I mean is, I used to think personally that you weren't able to get to a certain level if you weren't like born into it. And I don't know if that was part of my conditioning where I grew up in the States, but there was almost like this invisible division of like the have and have nots, and if you don't have something, don't even dream of getting there because it's not going to happen. And that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Absolutely. Makes some good points too. Obviously, he put himself broke by just
Partying
and paying for everything for everyone. From my personal experience is I've got a lot more satisfaction out of life for just doing just nice things for people without having to buy a bottle at the club or buy dinners for people. It's about spending time, and when people reach out for you to help.
Talk about what nice things.
Like, obviously, I can't really talk about too much. Sometimes my friends
like holding the door for somebody.
Just even like your friends coming to you for help.
Okay.
Not expecting anything in return. Do you know what I mean? It's just being there for them.
So being a
Do you know what I
friend.
mean? Being there, talking to them.
Yeah.
Being a listener. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, listening.
Sometimes it's better to listen than to actually speak back, because that's what they need most of the time.
Especially if somebody is reaching out and coming to you for your help. I like the idea of helping people that we don't know. I find a lot of self satisfaction when in its small things. And I'm on the bus this morning at 6 a.m. and everybody is, the bus is packed and there's one stop. So once you get into the CBD in Sydney, it isn't like 8 different stops and people, slowly get off the bus. It's just one and everybody rushes. So I'm conditioned now to stand up and just let people go. What in front of me that they should go, and the looks on some people's faces, both good and bad, it's kind of shocking that we're in such a rush. We're in such a rush to get to where we're going. We lose sense of being selfless and tolerant. We lose sense in what it really matters to live, what means the most. And it reminds me of the Currency quote. I always butcher it, but the Jim Carrey talks about that. The most important aspect of life is how you treat others, what you give to others. And you're seeing that a lot from a lot of people. Will Smith, that's his mission too, and he talks about if you're not making people's lives better in anything you do, if you're not making someone's life better, you're missing the picture.
Yeah.
And you could that could be on so many different levels and scales. You could be the guy who sells magazines on the corner and helps the young lady who has nobody to talk to because she has no friends and all she has to talk to is that magazine.
Yeah.
So you give it to her and then you're making her life better, and it's all on everything's relative.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like
cool.
a star.
I love what he says about smiling at people and greeting people, even people you don't know. In the elevator, I do it all the time in the gym now because it just makes me feel better. And I think it makes them feel better too. So if you're around in the elevator, don't stare at your phone, let's be honest. You're not getting reception anyway.
Well, the elevator, have you read the elevator? The elevator scenario is a very famous psychological study, though, about it comes down to that small space and personal space and how we all, I think it's more instinct. I think it's more primal, our reaction, than our natural decision making.
Yep.
I think it's something in our human makeup that changes our behavior in that elevator. Isolation, you don't know anyone, you instantly internalize everything. So everyone talks about that. I always try to act like a dick in the elevator. I do the opposite. If I'm in an elevator, I'm always like, "What's up, guys?" Say a joke, everyone laughs, and it's just pretty funny to break that ice. But you feel it. It's thick. That energy. It's interesting.
Just an easy little thing for people to start
The shower.
cooperating. Well, what a great episode, guys. Really hope you enjoyed that. So make sure you subscribe to iTunes or SoundCloud. We really appreciate your support. So get on there, leave us a 5-star review, and we're just going to keep bringing on guys like Jay.
Jay Ferruggia, yeah, check him out. And that's our point. We don't expect everybody listening to know every guest we have on. If that ever is the case or we get there, that's fine, but that's not our mission. We want to bring on people that we feel that we can learn from personally and that you guys can learn from as well. So the guy is super top-notch in his field, and it's awesome to see him evolving into other fields such as personal development, mentorship, hosting, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, check him out.
Most definitely. All right, Johnny, you have a great week.
TK, as will you. I gotta wish you the same, man.
Peace.
Have a great one.
on now, creep.
I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul. I got something for your mind, your body, and your soul.
The Vision Board Podcast, hosted by Johnny Stofko and Tristan Cannell.